With the Suns' disappointing exit in the second round against the Dallas Mavericks, many fingers are going around with much tension being generated from the once complete locker room. Deandre Ayton sits at the center of this controversy as his minutes and effort worsened throughout the series, ultimately leading to him being benched in Game 7. One report came out to where Monty Williams told Deandre Ayton he quit on them, and with Deandre Ayton being upset that he wasn't getting the max contract he felt he deserved. Now with the big offseason looming, many are speculating this is the end of Deandre Ayton in the Valley. What's up guys, today I want to do a season review for the 4-year center. I want to explore the idea of the #1 overall pick leaving the Suns after only a few years. Lastly, I want to investigate the question, are the Phoenix Suns ruining Deandre Ayton's career? Headed into the season, I had Deandre sitting at a top 5 center on the same level with Bam Adebayo. I admit I would fave Ayton a tiny bit as he did beat out Bam in their head-to-head matchups, but Ayton really started garnering top-tier attention in last year's playoff run where he was a key part of Phoenix's offense. He was a great rebounder and a solid defender. He was also incredibly efficient shooting as he was 66% from the field in the playoffs. So I expected a lot of this would more or less carry over into the season, and it really did. He kept up a lot of his defensive steam throughout the regular season, being one of the best defenders on one of the best defending teams. Down low, he was a good defender who held his own against most non-elite centers. On the perimeter, I have him overvalued quite a bit, especially looking back after these playoffs, as there are some questions about if he can really defend out there. But he is also 6'11". There have only been a few players in NBA history who can reliably guard the perimeter at that size. Offensively, I think this was another step in the right direction. Ayton continued as one of the best pick and roll men in the league, and I think there was a huge development this year in his post game. Rather than just a little short jump hooks, he began more of a turnaround jumpers and faders, adding in another element to his game. Although you could make a legitimate argument that this was from a lack of physicality, but anyways, something I found that was impressive is that he scored more this year, and he was a more efficient scorer all around while scoring less at the rim. Ayton saw a good increase in his scoring from mid-range. This season he shot 45% from mid-range on 2 attempts per game. Last year he was only 40% on 1 attempt per game. While this isn't a massive difference, this is something that adds up over the course of a season. So I would generally say when looking at the regular season, Deandre Ayton has made some tangible, measurable upgrades in both the box score and according to the eye test. So that's it, right? Well, no. Like most of Phoenix, Deandre Ayton really struggled in the playoffs, especially against the Dallas Mavericks team, which I had much higher expectations for him. He played well against Valanciunas, albeit his defense was not at the level I was hoping for. And for a large part of the time against Dallas, he was far from the game changer he was in last year's finals run. In these playoffs, Ayton was attacked on the perimeter far more than ever. CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Luka Doncic are all great scorers who can quickly go around him, create separation on him, or have a quick enough release to make him pay when he drops off too far. Now this isn't just a problem specific to Deandre. There are only a few centers who can really consistently defend like this, but for a former #1 overall pick who wants a max contract, a poor showing like this, especially on the defensive end, leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But now this is where I want to ask how much of this is actually DA's fault. After all, he can't control the direction the league is headed in. He can't control the fact that he was drafted right before the guy who will likely be the greatest player of the 2020s. For most of his young career, there were some complaints questioning and surrounding Deandre's work ethic. Questions that have resurfaced, especially in this season. It doesn't help that Ayton and his camp have been very public about desiring a max contract. Meanwhile, Phoenix's ownership has a history of being cheap and have refused to offer the contract that Ayton wants. There's been a clear disconnect between the Suns' management and Deandre, and after the series against Dallas, that has seeped down to Coach of the Year Monty Williams. And it even wouldn't surprise me if Ayton wanting this contract after a lackluster performance creates a divide in the locker room. And I think for most fans, whether or not they're a Suns fan, most fans probably don't think that he deserves a max contract, and many Suns fans are to the point where they don't want to see him back in Phoenix next year. And for Phoenix, it really seems like they're seeing through Ayton and what he is wanting. To anybody watching, the league has been heading away from centers for a while now. Guys like Joel Embiid, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Nikola Jokic all make up for their size by being generational players, with Bam Adebayo being a true multiple level defender who can perform offensively. But outside of these top centers, we are seeing teams get away from these top tier centers. Boston is making the NBA Finals with Robert Williams, who's on a near minimum contract. Kevon Looney provides production far outside his contract. Even guys like Jonas Valanciunas and Steven Adams still have smaller contracts compared to what Ayton wants. Toronto has seen a ton of production from Precious Achiuwa on a small contract. Even the Suns' very own JaVale McGee has provided a ton of value on a league veteran minimum. My point is, it's very rare to see a center actually deserve a max contract, and there are really only a few of those spots in the league. And Ayton, as it stands, is not one of those generational centers. So it's natural for Phoenix to be wary of giving him such a large commitment. Even in this year's free agency, there's a few solid guys like DeMarcus Cousins, Thomas Bryant, Ivica Zubac, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Mitchell Robinson are all guys who could put up 75% of the production of Ayton on a third of his contract. Deandre is set to become a restricted free agent, so he'll be able to listen to offers from other teams, and many around the league are still feeling confident that he will receive a max contract. With the way that things are headed, I don't think Phoenix will want to match it outside of the purposes of a sign and trade. Phoenix and DeAndre have certainly grown apart, and while there are plenty of reasons to blame Ayton, I think he does actually have a little bit of justification to be frustrated with the Suns. There is a severe discrepancy in Ayton's stats in the first and second half of games. If we take his average stats of each half and then create those into per 36 stats, there's a pretty huge difference in his average performance. On average in the first half, Deandre Ayton is on pace to score 24 points, near 13 rebounds, 2 assists while shooting 17 shots per game. But in the second half, he's on pace to score only 17 points on the same 12 rebounds while shooting less than 12 shots per game. That's a near 7-point difference and a near 6-shot difference on average in each half. Even looking at his usage rate, he averaged a 24.1% usage rate in the first half, and that dipped to 18% in the second half. For reference, JaVale McGee actually has a higher usage rate in the second half. This same trend continues in the playoffs, where DeAndre averaged 11 points and 7.4 attempts in the first half, and then 6.8 points on 5.2 attempts in the second half. And if we look amongst centers, there is typically a dip in their second half usage, but not for those who are a near max contract guy. For reference, if Ayton averaged those stats that he did in the first half, that would put him at the 13th best in the league in scoring and the 3rd highest in rebounding. At that rate, he would certainly be deserving of a max contract spot and be probably a top 3 center in the league. Now, I can't fully say why DeAndre isn't getting second half touches. It could be a motor and his energy issue, but it could also come down to the fact that Monty Williams doesn't utilize centers too much in his offense, and when things get close in the second half, he has far more trust in his perimeter players. From this point of view, I definitely see Ayton's frustration on why he is looking to go elsewhere. Nobody has really mentioned this stat, and that's why I think there's a huge argument that the Suns are derailing his career. Clearly, he is more capable than what he is averaging so far, but Phoenix is not giving him the attention or the recognition he feels that he deserves. I think if properly utilized, there may still be a team willing to take a risk on Ayton, and with the way the Suns are headed, I'm sure they would love to bring in some talent for his return.